Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of The Go Show. I'm your host Froosh, and you're watching the second episode of the Competitive Basics series. Without wasting any more of your time, let's jump into tip number 1. Something that we neglected to go over in our first episode was movement while in a firefight. It's obvious that a moving target is harder to hit, so it makes sense that you would want to move while in a firefight. As I explain this, you'll be looking at a dynamic crosshair. The dynamic crosshair exists to show you when you'll be accurate or inaccurate based off your current movement. It's kind of like a real-time accuracy guide. Obviously, the bigger the crosshair space, the more inaccurate. Notice the massive crosshair that I'm using. I don't recommend these settings at all. It's just so you can see it clearly in the video. This game is created to demerit a shooter who is running, jumping, or falling. The recoil changes, the bullets go in different directions, and it's really only by random luck that you'll get a medium to long distance kill when you're in full sprint. So in response to how this game was realistically created, players have created their own way to be moving targets while staying incredibly accurate. Keep in mind that the following technique is most effective when using rifles in medium or long distance firefights. Now what I'm going to show you is a strafe, stop, shoot technique. You strafe to throw off the enemy, and you immediately tap the opposite strafe key to stop your character and shoot the enemy the instant that you stop. There is a reason that you have to tap the opposite strafe key to stop short. If you simply let go of your strafe key, your character will naturally slow to a stop. What I'm showing you right now is the dynamic crosshair displaying the difference between simply letting go of your strafe key and hitting the opposite strafe key to stop short. When I strafe left here, I'm simply letting go of the A key. When I strafe to the right, I'm letting go of the D key and quickly tapping the A key to stop short. The negative effect of not stopping yourself short is that you become easier to hit while unable to land accurate shots. This takes time and practice to master, and more importantly, execute cleanly in matches and tournaments. Our second tip is everything involved in executing a strat successfully. This includes constant communication, giving your teammates space to throw nades and peek corners, watching your teammates back, and partly it's getting used to the physics of this game and how it differs from previous CS versions. In a second, I'm going to show you a perfectly executed strat and a poorly executed strat. Both rounds were from a match this weekend in ESWC's finals. But first, let's go over some basics. When running certain strats, you're going to be forced into small areas, sometimes with 3 or more players. Every player needing a specific assignment or area to keep his eyes on. And when it's time to take that area of the map, precise movement and teamwork is required to execute properly. Give your teammates space. Don't be the guy that's so obsessed with seeing around the corner that he puts his teammate in danger by blocking and restricting his movement. You should have your own assignment to worry about. You may be forced into a bottleneck of the map, but that doesn't mean you have to stand directly next to someone. Whether it's pre-planned before the match starts, or it's worked out live with good communication, everyone should be watching a different area of the bottleneck and from a different angle so that leaves no one vulnerable to a push from the opponent. Do your best to prevent lining up and making it easy for the opponent to get multiple quick kills. The most important time to give your teammates space is when they're throwing a grenade. Too often I see players getting bumped into while they're throwing a grenade, and they end up flashing or damaging the whole team with an HE. Be aware of which player on your team is the lead for pushing that map area, and give them space. The entry kill is the most important. If the lead player feels rushed or can't get his nades off properly, you can easily end up with a dead team and a wasted round. Be patient and work off your picks. It's rare that you see a professional team rush all 5 players into a site as soon as the round starts. If you execute properly, there is a much higher win percentage when you take over a bomb site from multiple angles in a calculated manner than if you rush all players in the same entrance hoping to catch an opponent off guard. For the opposing team, there's nothing more unsettling than not knowing where you're coming from. If your team is cautiously working all areas of the map, you are more likely to keep that opponent honest. Force them to play their spots. If a counter-terrorist feels like they have control over the match, they start to be aggressive every round, which forces you to play passive, which means you no longer control the tempo of the match. This will almost always end poorly since you, as a terrorist, are on the time constraint. Right now we're going to take a look at a successfully executed strat and a failed one. I'll talk about what they did right and what they did wrong. This match is from ESWC's finals between NiP and Mousesports. Mousesports is the terrorist team and they're down 5 rounds to 2. I'm going to show you the overview of the strat, and we'll go over each player's role. So, Stavboss and Troubly are going to rush to B tunnels and wait for their teammates before pushing into the B site. Their teammates Aprox and Nex are fast-catting down middle, through double doors, and communicating to the players in tunnels so they can attack B at the same time from multiple angles. Strux's responsibility is to op middle, to either pick off an enemy at middle, but also cover his teammates running down middle. After the attack at B starts, Strux will run to B tunnels and cover them. Let's look more closely at Stavboss and Troblia's role at B tunnels. They throw a few flash and HE grenades for two reasons. They want to create a distraction, but more importantly, they want the NiP players to know that there are multiple aggressive players in tunnels. Most of the attention of the NiP players will be on the action from tunnels. This allows for a Prox and Nex to come up through middle generally unnoticed. They smoke CT spawn so that they can attack B quickly without worrying about long distance attacks from the players at A and CT spawn. They flash over A walls, one goes through the double doors and one goes through window. As this happens, Stavboss and Trobli push into B site from tunnels, and it creates a scenario where there's 4 players coming from 3 different areas against 2 NiP players in B. Just a quick side note, Strux, who was opping middle, throws a flash to long to delay any NiP players there and starts heading to B. Now, there are a few things that they could have executed more cleanly. When Nex and Aprox push middle doors, they don't flash over the doors in case there's someone playing outside B. To me, this is a mistake, but they could have had a reason for this. It's possible that they studied NiP a lot and noticed that NiP never plays an op or mid. Also, Nex goes a little too far into double doors at B. He could have killed Freiburg without leaving himself vulnerable to Forrest, which is who kills him just as he takes out Freiburg. When Nex looks in double doors, he sees Freiburg, but it's almost like he didn't expect it, and out of reaction, he went to go turn to Closet, and by the time he turns back to Freiburg in sight, he left himself wide open to Closet. Other than those minor things, it looks like they executed and communicated really well. After they win this round, NiP is forced to save. Mousesports takes that round by being patient and making their picks, and the score is now 5-4 in favor of NiP. This 10th round is important to the confidence of Mousesports, as well as keeping the momentum in their favor. Now they decide to run the same strat. Something that makes NiP a great team is how they adjust to losing a few rounds in a match. So instead of playing 2 players in B, they play 1 outside B, near double doors, and they play 1 in sight near car. He actually ends up playing right outside the edge of the tunnels. They also smoke the entrance to B tunnels. This forces any players coming out of the tunnels to feel uncomfortable. Now, here are the differences between the first and the second time they ran this strat. The second time, they don't throw any grenades into B from tunnels. They quietly sit in tunnels and wait for the players at middle to create a distraction. Now, this could have been on purpose to kind of reverse the strat, but I think it's a mistake. If they threw nades from tunnels, it would have kept the players at B honest. It would have made the NiP players feel uncomfortable again. There are 2 more moments where I feel they made major mistakes that lead to a disaster here. Trobli sees and gets into a firefight with Freiburg, who is playing outside B. Either this wasn't communicated properly to Stavboss, or he feels like he can be aggressively sloppy and get away with it. He just runs up to the box and ends up getting taken out quickly. And he lines up with his teammate who's getting hit from the same spray from Freiburg. An HE grenade would have helped here, or quick peeks around that box instead of running straight at Freiburg. Now, because those teammates were dying, on the other side of the site, they panic and rush into B. Despite the fact that there's smoke grenade there blocking their view, and allowing less time to react to Forrest, who is sitting close by. They didn't throw any flashes into the bomb site, no grenades, no smokes. They essentially rushed in blind from what was nearby. Nex ends up killing his teammate Aprox, and Forrest finishes off Nex. And at that point, it's a 1v5. Our last topic is the proper use of deathmatch. This tip is not about competitive gameplay itself, but more about preparing for competitive gameplay. I'm talking about this last because it includes techniques I speak about earlier in the episode. Teaching yourself good habits and removing bad habits. Even professional players utilize aim maps and deathmatch servers to improve, or even just warm up for a match. But you have to do it right. Don't jump into a deathmatch server unless you're in the right mindset. That mindset is patience and willingness to die 50 times and only get a few kills. It takes time to break habits, and during this time you will most likely feel frustrated. A lot of gamers have an addiction to getting as many kills as possible. While you practice, you'll initially be playing at a lower skill level because it's new to you. Stay patient and stay true to the rules that you create for yourself. Here's a couple of examples. Let's say you want to work on removing the bad habit of spraying your rifles. Obviously choose the rifle that you feel is your weakest. Right now we're going to use the AK-47 and the Deagle for my pistol. So let's create some rules for ourselves. You don't have to apply all of these rules at once. Start with one, and once you feel comfortable and relaxed, add another rule. Rule number 1. Only 2 shots at a time with an AK-47. 1 shot at a time with a Deagle. Focus on the head for every single shot. Rule number 2. Force patience. Take longer pauses between shots. If you're prone to panicking when you see an enemy, force yourself to relax and strafe for a second longer before your next shot. You'd be surprised at how long you live before the player kills you. The game will slow down mentally if you're patient. If you're spraying your entire clip and freaking out, it becomes a blur. Rule number 3. Make sure your character is completely stopped before shooting your AK. This will require you to work on your strafe, stop, shoot technique. These are just starting points. Once you feel comfortable, your accuracy and reaction time is improved, remove these strict rules, and jump into a match. The point of pausing longer between your shots was to keep you from wanting to spray immediately. If you remove the pauses for the match, you shouldn't immediately find yourself spraying again. You should find yourself bursting in stressful, chaotic scenarios. If you find yourself spraying again, it means you need more practice with the rules because it didn't become second nature yet. If deathmatching isn't improving your gameplay, stop doing it. Jump into a competitive match and be conscious of all of your actions. Be okay with losing. This isn't a tournament. It's okay to lose 10 matches in a row as long as your skill level and mistake awareness is the beneficiary. Well guys, that's going to do it for Competitive Basics number 2. Thank you for all of your support over the past 2 months. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook. If you have any questions, contact us there or leave a comment here, and we'll probably make an episode out of it. Until next time,